Welcome to the weekend edition of the Fast Five by Fear and Greed. I'm Michael Thompson, and hello, Sean Aylmer.
Hello, Michael.
Sean, on weekdays, it's all about the Fast Five, the top 5 business stories in 5 minutes. On the weekend, it's still 5 minutes, of course, but we are going to pick out the biggest story of the week, the sleeper story, one that's kind of flying under the radar a little bit, the most remarkable story, and our favourite story. So let's jump straight into the biggest story of the week. What was it for you?
For me, it was the Reserve Bank upping the cash rate by 25 basis points. That's the 9th successive increase. Made it clear there are more interest rate hikes in the offing. The official cash rate's now 3.35%. Less than a year ago, it was 0.1%. That means if you've got a loan of about $750,000 over 25 years, you're paying almost $1,400 a month more. Now, the big lenders were quick to pass on higher home lending rates. Not so fast when it came to deposit rates. Late in the week, the Court of Public Opinion forced some of the big banks to lift rates on savings accounts, which of course disproportionately are held by pensioners. Higher rates moved equity markets, bond markets, the Aussie dollar, outlook for the economy, et cetera, et cetera. Big story, Michael.
Yeah, sure. It's the biggest story of the week, absolutely. But there's also been a lot of political news around this week, Sean, here and abroad. The US is kind of where it's all been happening. President Joe Biden delivered his State of the Union address, always great theatre. He wants to increase taxes on corporates and the wealthy. He talked about climate change being an existential threat, but that the US is going to be using oil and gas for some time to come. The big feature for me, though, was his comments about China, saying if China threatens our sovereignty, we will act to protect our country. This comes in the same week as the US shot down a Chinese spy balloon that had been cruising over the US, ratcheting up tensions between the two countries. And back home, we had Parliament back, sitting for the first time this year. Lots of talk about the voice referendum. Heaps of really important issues being discussed: defence, health, industrial relations, and the economy. Big week for politics, Sean.
Plenty going on.
Most remarkable story this week for me was the $24 billion bid for Australia's largest gold miner, Newcrest Mining. Love a good takeover story, Sean. And the bidder here is US giant Newmont. These two were actually originally part of one company. In 1966, Newmont listed its Australian assets on the ASX. So if it all goes ahead, it's just kind of restoring things to the way they were kind of 57 or so years ago. Interestingly, it happened when Newcrest is without a CEO at the moment, so a pretty opportunistic bid. If it goes ahead, this is going to make a very, very big mining company. It's a big story.
Absolutely. Nice mathematics in the middle of that too, Michael.
Oh, yes. I failed, didn't I?
No, 57 years, you're right. Now, my most remarkable story is the fact that Tesla Model 3 is now the third highest selling vehicle in Australia. Now, Tesla cut its prices in January. He did that globally, including in Australia. It's now the third highest selling vehicle. I think that's incredible. Toyota Hilux and Ford Ranger, that's 2 and 1. So Ford Ranger is number 1, then Toyota Hilux. I reckon the EVs are coming to get them. Michael, the revolution isn't coming in electric vehicles. It's arrived.
Oh, that is a big call, Sean. All right, sleeper story of the week. What was it for you?
Look, mine's all about federal parliament. Lydia Thorpe resigned from the Greens over the party's position on the voice referendum. Slightly ironic that she doesn't know whether she'll vote yes or no yet, but she's now on the crossbenches along with David Pocock and Jackie Lambie, and those three are going to be critical to the government being able to pass legislation. Then later in the week, the government lost a Senate vote on superannuation disclosure reforms. Issue doesn't matter. The fact that the coalition, the Greens and the crossbenchers bunched together to defeat the government on legislation is probably the first time that's happened since Albo won the election. Big sleeper story for mine because we're going to see more of it over the next year or so.
All right, favourite story, Sean, and I think you and I might be united on this one. It's the AI wars. And for weeks, everyone's been playing around with the Chat GPT platform, the AI platform, that's kind of got a lot of people asking, hey, is this going to kind of replace our jobs? Because they can churn out content really, really easily and quickly and generally pretty accurately. The big story this week, though, was Google's launch of its own AI offering called Bard, B-A-R-D. At a press conference to show how Bard could integrate with Google's search function, it actually gave an incorrect answer to a question about space.
Ouch.
Yes, indeed. And it raised questions over whether Google has lost ground when it comes to search online, and parent company Alphabet actually lost about $100 billion in value. Sean, this is just the very beginning of the AI wars, but Google did not get off to the best start this week.
No, it didn't. So, Michael, my favourite story was the one about space junk. Basically, there's a problem in space. There's record numbers of satellites launched by China, Russia, the US, private entrepreneurs, and they're crowding the Earth's orbit. The junk up there, old satellites, rocket fuselages, apparently it's everywhere, 27,000 pieces of it up there. Now, Japan, the US, they're all tracking it. Private companies are actually using missiles on lasers to try and displace the orbit of some of these satellites so they don't do damage. What damage are we talking about? Well, it could totally disrupt technology. Things like mobile phones, financial transactions, the internet, etc., etc. Incredible story that came out this week, Michael.
Yeah, it's a ripper of a story. There we go. 5 minutes and pretty much everything you need to know in the world of business. Thank you very much, Sean.
Thank you, Michael.
We'll be back on Monday morning with the top 5 business stories in 5 minutes. Don't forget to check out our sister podcast as well, How Do They Afford That, featuring Canna Campbell, the founder of Sugar Mama TV. All about making your money work a little bit harder for you this week is all about getting started investing in shares. I'm Michael Thompson, and this is the Fast 5 by Fear and Greed.